Listener discretion is advised.
I just wanted to come and talk on live on Facebook Live. My son and his teammates are in Atlanta at a basketball camp. The boys are excited. They're meeting their some of their favorite players of all times. Like, my son has this one favorite player that he loves all the time. He finally gets to meet this guy. You understand what I'm saying to you? So he calls me up. I'm like, hey, babe, what's going on? Okay, he says, Mom, guess who's in my hotel? I said, who? He says, Kobe Bryant. What? Kobe Bryant is in your room, in your hotel? Kobe and Scottie Pippen. Scottie too? Scottie Pippen is in my hotel. He says, I said, did you meet him? He says, yeah. He says, but Mom, they won't let us talk to him or even touch him. He says, Scottie Pippen said, don't touch him and don't say nothing to him. Scottie Pippen, you hook-nosed, ugly, corny motherfucker. That's why your wife is cheating on you, bitch. And Kobe, I know your corny ass ain't trying to be funny. You married a motherfucking hooker, bitch. You're lucky. I liked you for a very long fucking time, but pussy, you lost me. You understand what I'm saying? How dare you treat these little kids like that? You asshole. You only made it because of your fans. Your fans was the ones that backed you up and supported you when you went to court after butt fucking that fucking girl. Nasty. Nasty. Yeah. And we still supported your fucking ass. And you don't want nobody to touch you? You don't want nobody to speak to you? Fuck you, Kobe. And fuck you too. What's his name? Scottie fucking hook-nosed, ugly ass Pimpin. Pippin. Whatever the fuck his name is. Fuck you too.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh. Yeah, yeah, nah, nah, nah. A Bears Barroom, they're the ones that fight for truth. Bears are alive or 100 proof, even if the Bears win or lose. A Bears Barroom, they're the ones that fight for truth. Bears are alive or 100 proof, no matter if the Bears win or lose. Yo, first, the smartest man, no tweets, he's never missing. Impossible, the mission, call out frauds with precision. A Bears 100 proof, these faces #1 adorer. Slaying dumb tweets, cross-eyed like Contora. Never one to back down, to call a fraud a lemon. Wise Ram, no doubt, Miller's asterisk ending. Cheers, Bears fans. The fire Puerto Rican barkeeping for Chicagoland. He's the godfather, the one, the real producer. Always keeping the show together with the voice that will seduce us. Risking out the Firefox, the old timer never stops. IPA, drafts, malts, crafts, barkeep takes the shots.
No deny.
Barflies appreciated worldwide. Canada, Scotland, England, Brazil, Mexico, and Dubai. Dr. Phil is the guy, the one to realize that the Barroom needed a show with an endless shoot supply. Go big, go forth, the narrative on color brought the Jasons of Gabay for Mitchell. Now I'm the standing up for the truth. You know your boy's the little guy. These media heads won't give us credits up to the barflies. Flies. Fuck a fraud in his keyboard, Twitter tough guys surround us. Raining truth on the Bears worldwide, barflies astound us. This is the #1 pod, that's the reality of the truth. And if you don't know us by now, Bears 100 proof. A Bears Barroom, they're the ones that fight for truth. Bears are alive or 100 proof, even if the Bears win or lose. A Bears Barroom, they're the ones that fight for truth. Bears are alive or 100 proof, no matter if the Bears win or lose. A Bears Barroom, they're the ones that fight for truth. Bears are alive or 100 proof, even if the Bears win or lose. A Bears Barroom, they're the ones that fight for truth. Bears are alive or 100 proof, no matter if the Bears win or lose. Bears Barroom, yeah, you know you got to feel it. You got to feel it. You got to feel it. Bears Barroom, you know you gotta feel it. Yeah, you gotta feel it. Do you feel it? You gotta Firefox, fire, John Fox. Yeah. MC fulfilling. Another fulfilling 45 track. Bringing the hits for the Bears Barflies. 100 proof worldwide. Shout out to him, the super producer, the Godfather, up your night. Aldo Gandia. Shout out to the vice president. It's the Bears Bar. And of course, it's only one. The smartest man in the bar room. Come on now. The mailman. Shane. Money Man Marsaw. Deliver the mail. MC fulfill for the Bears. Of course, your boy, Draft Dr. Phil.
Good protection, Garoppolo over the middle, and the pass is taken away by the Bears, and Kyle Fuller. At first, it looked like a catch. Instead, it's Bears football.
Hands on the ground, and that's when Kyle Fuller took it away. He's down, but Kyle Fuller pulls it out right before Lewis Murphy's hip hits the ground. So you've got to have a strong grip, and in that instance, it looks like Kyle Fuller had the stronger of the two grips.
Me personally, I'm going out there trying to be the, best Kyle Fuller I could be, getting better every day, every week, trying to do my best, to help the team win.
What would it mean to you that, the space season that you're having could and probably will pay off for, a decent deal here?
I don't think about it too much. I'm just going out there to perform. Those things do come with it. But, like I said, I'm just focusing on, trying to be my best, every week, every game.
Is this a place where you want to stay?
Yes.
Bears fans, this is Bears 100 Proof, and you just heard Kyle Fuller back in December, not exactly jumping up and down when asked if he wants to come back to Chicago, but that's not the type of guy he is. He's low-key, but I'm not. That's because we have a hell of a show for you tonight. My name is Aldo Gandia, but don't you worry, the stars of this nightclub act are here, and they are, of course, Draft Dr. Phil and Shane, Moneyman, Mailman, Smartest Man, Marsaw. We're going to talk Kyle Fuller, Mitch Trubisky, Dowell Loggins, and much more with our very special guest
and WGN Radio's very own Adam Hoge.
Adam Hoge is WGNRadio.com's Chicago Bears insider. That's where he also hosts Sports Central on weekday afternoons, co-hosts the very popular Bears podcast, Hoge and Johns, where he will split the hosting duties for the Chicago White Sox postgame show this upcoming season, and he writes a draft column for Pro Football Weekly. Adam, welcome to the bar room.
What's going on, guys? I'm impressed you got all that.
And I still have some breath left.
That was really good.
Adam, with me are Draft Dr. Phil and Shane Marsaw, who we refer to here as the smartest man in the bar room, and he proved it to me yet again by reminding me that in December of 2016, you posted on Facebook an essay on the condition of your son, James Matthew. You wrote that James was born with a syndrome called 22q, and it's the result of a deletion in the 22nd chromosome, and as a complication to that, he developed a vascular ring. So more important than anything we'll talk about tonight, can you please give us an update on the condition of James Matthew?
Well, he's currently watching a show called Stinky and Dirty. Living room. He's doing great. I appreciate you guys asking. He's growing into a mostly normal and healthy little boy, which we're grateful of, and hopefully all the big complications that we pretty much knew about at his birth 3.5 years ago are in the past. There's always going to be some things and some minor things and checkups that he's going to have throughout his life, but overall he's doing great. So I appreciate you guys checking in on him.
Well, so Adam, Stinky and Dirty, is that Dowell's old playbook they might be checking in on?
That's good. Yeah. See if he can pawn any of that off on Adam Gase down in Miami.
Exactly.
With the Dolphins.
Jay's getting out of it quick.
Adam, I don't know if you've heard this show before, but we have a tendency of joking around a lot at people's expenses, particularly Dowell Loggins and the former head coach of the Bears, John Fox.
That was good off the top of your head. I like that one.
he's got a million of them. Well, let's talk some football. Shane, why don't you lead us off?
Hey, Adam. I'm a big follower of the Hogan Johns podcast, and I'm always intrigued when you start to talk about your quarterbacks. And I know that you were talking about Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, and you kind of mixed a little bit of Mitch Trubisky in there with your quarterback rankings, like overall and what you were expecting and projecting them to be. And I just like to know really your overall stance on what we've seen from Mitch after 12 games, and maybe do you still feel real good about that projection? Because I know you had him really high in your projections, even compared to Goff and Wentz moving forward. Do you still have him on that upward trend, and are you happy with what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I know what you're referring to, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but I remember tweeting like on draft night last year, like maybe 2 hours before the draft started, kind of, I do my draft rankings every year, but I put them all together in like a recency kind of, overall rankings, and how I had them on draft nights. Not necessarily, obviously in hindsight, we can see that Jared Goff and Carson Wentz are looking pretty good. I think I had them at the top. And I always liked Mariota a little bit more than Jameis Winston. And both of them have been pretty good, but not, elite, not to a top level. They certainly have some flaws to their game too. Mitch Trubisky, I don't remember where I had him specifically in there. I have to go back and find that tweet, but I know I had him kind of in that mix of those guys that, especially in the most recent years, Mariota, Goff, Wentz, and Derek Carr have been the guys that I really felt comfortable with on going into the draft, saying, hey, look, I would use a very high draft pick in the first round on these guys. And for the most part, I think those guys have backed it up. Maybe not so much Mariota this past season. But Trubisky was, I think I had him 14th overall on my draft board last year. And he was the only one I had a first-round grade on in the draft last season. Looking now a year into it, I don't know that I gave him enough credit. As much as I liked him and was willing to use a first-round pick on him, I also was pretty consistent leading up to the draft that if I was the Bears at number 3, I don't know that I would use that pick because they had to hit on it. They couldn't take a risk on a guy coming from a different college spread offense. And, I think a year into it, I was probably wrong about that. As much as I love Mitch and actually defended the pick after they made it, at least defended the logic behind it for Ryan Pace, I probably undersold him a little bit. I like him a lot, and I think he's going to be successful going forward.
Now, you're right. Hey, Adam, Philitoshin, a.k.a. Draft Dr. Phil. I actually met you at Patriots-Bears joints practices.
I remember that.
You remember, and you helped me with the phone charger. I've been nothing but a fan of yours because we're just truthful here, and I'm truthful. And as far as the beat writers and the people covering this football team, you always ask the questions the real deep-loving, tape-loving football fanatics of the Bears, like this Barroom podcast, you ask those questions that we want to be asked. And I don't think there's anybody better than you out there in Chicago covering the Bears. So I wanted to say that truthfully. It's been said by me and Shane and Aldo many a time here, but I just appreciate the fact that you ask the tough ones and you throw those football questions in there.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And, the truth is I found that I've been doing this for 7 years now with the Bears, and as long as you're fair and you point out the good with the bad and you do the homework behind those questions, you watch the tape and you really understand what's going on, then the team, the coaches, the players, the general manager will, respect you when you do ask those questions. They'll understand where it's coming from. So I appreciate that, guys. I mean, it's nice to know that it's noticed. So thanks.
Hey, Adam, we ask the tough questions here too. So who doesn't do the homework?
Who doesn't?
Who does not? Correct. Who in the Chicago media does not ask the tough questions because they don't do the homework?
Well,
you're gonna take your shot here.
Dan Wiederer.
I'm not gonna give names, but
there you go.
There's certainly guys that are in that media room that that don't do their homework. You know what though? Here's the thing I will say. Everybody has a different way of covering the team, coming from their backgrounds, whether it's newspaper, radio, TV, or a mix of all of it. I've just found that I've kind of tried to do it a different way, which is instead of look, it's great when Adam Johns can break the Matt Nagy story. I mean, that's awesome,
right.
and that's what some of those guys get paid. You know, it's all what your bosses tell you to do, and you know if obviously Adam Schefter is paid to break stories, and a lot of those newspaper guys, that's what they're paid to do. I don't have that pressure, and I'm lucky to. I look at that as a lucky thing. Like I don't have to break stories constantly, so I have the time to have talk to a lot of the same people those guys are probably talking to, but not have to always worry about hey, I'm talking to you because I need this information. It's more so, hey, I can take this information and use it to my advantage, kind of more behind the scenes when I'm watching the tape and really understand what's going on. And then that ends up informing what I'm writing, what I'm saying, and even the questions that I'm asking. So it's just a different approach, and it's not that anybody's doing it the right or the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Like I said, we're all under different pressures for our job, like anybody doing any job. And I think my situation is just maybe a little bit more unique than some of the other guys. So that doesn't mean that they're not doing a great job. I think it just, it all gets produced. The content, it's all the same content. So if you can find a way to do it uniquely and different,
yep.
That's what I try to aim to do every week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it comes off that way.
Yeah.
And you're on the lake side of this locker room and this football team. And I want to take you back to last year. Obviously, there's a lot of turmoil with the head coach and the wins and losses and the decision to go with Glennon when it was clear that anybody in their right mind would have made a competition. All these football things were missing in regards to it. But then they finally put the kid in, and he's on Monday Night Football against the Vikings, or was it Thursday, whatever. It was prime time. And a pressure situation. The kid goes out, performs pretty decent, obviously nervous. Then you go further in the season, and they win this football game, and you could tell the trust in Mitchell and the play calling is. I think he threw 7 passes, whatever it was, in the football game. And they win this game, and this kid's face doesn't look like a kid who won a football game. You're there, Adam.
Yeah.
You're across. Is this that point with which I know in Barroom we felt like this was a missed opportunity? This kid's confidence is sinking here. And did you feel that as well, being around the kid? Like they were governing him to not make mistakes and be so dumbed down that it poorly affected the quarterback?
I don't know that it had a negative effect on Mitch. I think that certainly you could tell, and by the way, he's already handling himself very professionally to the point where, even when you have Jordan Howard admitting at the end of the season, it's during Super Bowl week, that the defenses knew what they were calling. You never heard that kind of stuff during the season from Mitch. You never heard him complaining about what he was being asked to do. I think he trusted the path that he was on. And I got to say, as ugly as the offense looks sometimes and the play calling fairly can be questioned, I don't necessarily think that Dow Loggins did a bad job developing Mitch this year. I don't think that he had a negative impact on Mitch's overall development. Did he hold him back a little bit on the field and maybe impact the numbers at the end of the day, and maybe some of the way it looks to the outside, outside of Chicago for people who maybe didn't watch every snap? Sure. I can see that perception.
but I don't think it was a disaster from a developmental point of view in year one, because I'll stick to my scouting report on Mitch. Love the tools, love the accuracy, love the commitment to the game, the teammate, the character, everything about it. He was making a big adjustment from the offense. So I don't, let's just say, if Matt Nagy had been the head coach this year, this past season, and doing a little bit more complicated stuff, which I think you're going to see next season, I don't know that Mitch would have been able to handle all that. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that Dow was the OC in year one. I think it's good that they're moving on, and he's going to be in a much different situation going forward. But I will say I thought Mitch handled it well, and I think the one thing that sticks with me still to this day, looking back on 2017, is you can go back to the first week or two of training camp back in Bourbonnais. The way his teammates talked about him, the whether it was talking about the throws he made or what he was doing off the field, you could tell there was something different there. You could tell that he was already earning the respect of his teammates. And there's no one questioning Mitch Trubisky's commitment to being great. The rare outstanding quarterbacks in football have sort of that, in some ways it's odd the way they're obsessed with the game. Mm-hmm. I don't know how good Mitch will end up being. Time will tell. But I think he has that rare obsession with football that is a common trait that you find in all the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Hey, Adam, real quick before we get off Dowell, I have two questions here. But the first one is, while we're still on Dowell, when you hear an offensive coordinator, and this went viral, and maybe you even know where I'm going with this, when your offensive coordinator makes the comment that, defense is going to dictate who plays.
Yep.
What do you guys in the media room, do you guys all look at each other and are you guys like, what? Did he really just say that? Is that something you guys when you're walking out of there holy shit, did this just happen? Because yeah, I was watching the post game, or when I was watching that press conference. I live here in New York. I was watching it, and I was totally baffled. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, I'm a Bears fan, and this is really happening right now. I couldn't believe it. So I'm really interested to know your outlook on something like that.
Yeah, and I remember John Fox said something similar. It was almost like they came to the podium that week, hey, this is the message that we're going to put out, as if it's a good message. And I forget which one of them said it first.
It was Dowell. It was Dowell.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think John followed up the next.
Right?
Well, what happened was, if Dowell said it first, I want to say that, kind of the way you brought up the question was exactly how it registered in my head, which was, did he just say that? And sometimes you're so baffled by an answer that you don't want to follow up because you think you heard it wrong. And
right.
You go back and you listen to the tape first, and then you make sure that that's how it came out and that you weren't. You want to be fair to them. And so I think what happened was then the next day.
He had a presser, right? Fox.
Well, Fox came out to cover it up, yeah.
I was the one that brought it up.
You did.
Yeah, yep.
And said,
you are our hero.
Isn't that, should you be dictating what the defense is playing and not the other way around? So, yeah, I think looking back on the season, that was a pretty telling.
Yeah, John went to the replay booth on that one and actually won one. Decided he better make up for it, I think.
Did Larry Mayer ask you to retract that statement? Didn't happen, guys.
Larry's in a tough position, man.
Larry. Well, we better not talk about Larry because Larry's not one of our favorites here. So I'm sure he's a good friend of yours. Shane, you had a follow-up question too?
Yeah. Well, what we've seen here, transpire yesterday, and this has been kind of an ongoing thing with me at the Barroom talking about my favorite team, the Chicago Bears, as we see this turmoil on the offensive line, and they draft Kyle Long, and Phil Emery says, ideally in the future, maybe he projects out to left tackle. They put him at right guard, and then they're flipping him over to right tackle and then back to right guard. Cody Whitehair comes in. They draft him to be a left tackle. Hronis Pursuit gets hurt. They put him at center. And then the constant flip-flopping. Where, like, if you were, I know we're early in the off season, but where do you project the best spot moving forward would be for, like, Kyle Long? I know Olin Kreutz came out yesterday and said that he thinks that Cody Whitehair should stay at center, and we all here at the Barroom tend to agree with that sentiment. Left guard is up in the air. We know nothing's going to happen with Charles Leno. I think Bobby Massey takes a little bit more heat than maybe he should. I mean, he's an average to below average right tackle, and that's, it's not really a bad thing because there's horrible right tackles out there. But how do you see this offensive line playing out, and do you think that any of these guys should be, or where do you project them is their best position, I guess I should say?
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer in, filling holes with guys that you you can't be reaching for guys, whether it's free agency or in the draft. So, like, right now, I think Charles Leno does a good enough job at left tackle. He's not going in the Hall of Fame as a left tackle for sure, but he's good enough. And I think the few times that he gets exposed on a big play throughout the season, maybe it happens a handful of times, people pick on him, and that's sort of the life of a left tackle. On the right side, in Bobby Massey's current situation, his contract, his age, he's not the worst right tackle that the Bears have had, but he's not great either. That's an area where I think you can upgrade. But as I look at, the interior of the line, and you brought up Whitehair and you brought up Kyle Long, those are two guys that, especially in Whitehair's case, I appreciate his versatility. That's a great quality to have. But I also think he can be really, really good if he stays at one spot. And I think we've seen from Kyle the last few years that he can be a really good right guard, maybe an average right tackle, but a really good right guard if he can stay healthy. And I think so for me, the big thing with Kyle is offseason, get these surgeries taken care of, get him healthy. He was never healthy last year. From the first day of training camp, get him healthy by the first day of training camp, and get him at right guard and keep him there. And he's going to be pretty good if that's the case. Cody Whitehair, keep him at center. I totally agree with Olin Kreutz. I think that's his best position, and I think he can be really, really good if he just stays there and doesn't have to bounce around. But to do that, you have to come up with a good left guard. So for me, I'd like to see the Bears address the right tackle position, maybe through free agency, maybe through the draft. But I see a guy in Quentin Nelson coming out of Notre Dame who's one of my favorite offensive linemen that I've seen come out in a long time in the draft. And I love the idea of him coming in, and from day one, I think he could start week one right away at left guard. And all of a sudden, you've made Cody a really good center. You got Kyle Long at his best position, and you got a young rookie who I think can be really good as a rookie at left guard. All of a sudden, those tackle spots won't be such a glaring issue if you can shore that up. So that's kind of my strategy. We'll see what Ryan Pace does, but I think that would really help the overall situation on the offensive line. And then ideally, you create some competition with Bobby Massey at right tackle, who we'll see. I mean, maybe they end up moving on from him by the time camp starts.
Adam, in your mock draft, and thank you for doing these mock drafts, despite what anybody else says, we really enjoy them. They're very entertaining. And in the second round, you've got DJ Moore coming out of Maryland, and you say that he's one of the most impressive prospects that you saw last season. And then you've got another wide receiver later in your mock draft. I think it's Marcel Atman. So if that were to play out, that Ryan Pace proceeds with drafting two wide receivers, whether it's these guys or somebody else, what do you think he might do in free agency? Do you think he targets a wide receiver? And if so, now that Jarvis Landry is not available, who do you think he might go after?
Yeah, well, I'll just answer the last part of your question first. If Allen Robinson doesn't get tagged in Jacksonville, I really like him as an option for the Bears to go over in free agency. And the reality is, a lot of people are going to look at, oh, here goes Ryan Pace signing another injured player because he is coming off an ACL. But people can disagree with this. I actually really like Ryan Pace's strategy in free agency the last few years. It has produced a lot of players that haven't worked out. I understand that. But free agency is fool's gold. And you're going to be wrong a lot more than you're right. That's just the reality of the situation. So if you're wrong with a bunch of contracts that you can get rid of easily after 1 year and it really didn't cost you all that much, that's not a horrible thing in the grand scheme of things when it comes to free agency. Are those piling up? Sure. But I'd rather have 10 guys who didn't really cost you in the long run than one contract that's holding you back for years. And even in the case of Mike Glennon, that contract's not going to hold the Bears back after this season. Didn't work, looks stupid, you can move on. And so just kind of going along those lines, looking at these wide receivers, if Allen Robinson is available and he's coming off an ACL, maybe that gives you a little bit more value. And there's a guy who's looked pretty damn good with Blake Bortles of all quarterbacks. So I like him as somebody who can give you a little bit of value in free agency. I'm really curious to see what Cam Meredith looks like coming off of his ACL. Let's not forget about him. Ideally, I don't think he's more than a number 2, though. And I don't think you can count on Kevin White going forward. It'd be nice if he produces something this season, but that's really just a bonus at this point in my mind. I look at the Eagles, and it's always easy everyone wants to copycat the champion. But it does make me feel a little bit better. We all get fixated on this idea of finding a dominant number 1 wide receiver, and that is nice to have. But the Eagles prove that you can have, a number of decent 2s and 3s. Now, they better be good number 2s and 3s. And that's the thing. The Bears didn't even have like a number 4 this year, if we're being honest. So you got to find those guys. But if Cam Meredith can be a good number 2, you sign a good borderline 1-2 in Allen Robinson, and maybe you draft somebody with some value later on, then I think that's a pretty good situation. Everyone wants to see Calvin Ridley. I understand it. I think it's a little bit of a reach at number 8, and I love the depth in this draft with guys like DJ Moore, Marcel Aitman, just 2 that I named in my first Bears mock draft. Those types of guys, I think there's a few of them who can end up being pretty good.
Just to follow up regarding Pace's free agent strategy, isn't part of the reason why he has struck out so often in free agency is because he's fishing in the pool where there's the littlest fish, and he's not taking a risk with a high-priced free agent. And so wouldn't his chances at having more success in free agency is if he went after some of the higher-priced players out there?
Yeah, no question. And I think that eventually will happen. I think that Ryan Pace quickly realized that this roster was really, really bad that he inherited. And it was going to be a little bit longer than he probably thought. And I think certainly John Fox thought when he signed on 3 years ago. So with that in mind, I think he's had the right approach the last few years. Like if they get Stephon Gilmore last year in free agency, and for a much larger number than they ended up signing Prince Amukamara and Marcus Cooper. Are the Bears really that different last season? Certainly be nice to have a guy like that, but you gotta pick your time. And I understand, you found a diamond in the rough, so to speak, with Akeem Hicks, who was in the wrong system and in the wrong situation. Signed him on the cheap. It worked out. You extended him. I think that's what Ryan Pace has been doing. There will come a time, and maybe it's coming, next month, maybe in a couple weeks here with free agency, where he's got to spend more money and take some more chances. I think it will happen eventually. But you're right. I mean, it's always a risk. But when you're fishing in like the second tier, the third tier, the fourth tier free agents, your chances of striking out are much greater. I do like the fact, though, that it does not hurt their cap situation at all going forward, and the Bears are sitting really nicely this year specifically in that regard.
Well, let me ask you this to piggyback off free agency, and you look at this roster right now, Adam, your GM, where's the biggest hole, and what's on the horizon in regards to what you just said, free agency. where are you spending? Where are you identifying that big hole in the Bears roster, and are you aggressively going out to get that big fish?
Well, there's a number of holes. The biggest holes, I think, are on the outside on both sides of the football. I think it's a wide receiver, and I think it's a cornerback.
Really?
I think that both positions, and we can. I mean, there's certainly other spots. I mean, they need to find more edge rushers. There's no question. Those guys are getting old.
I thought that's where you're gonna go, Adam. Damn it.
Well,
I to sell you a spike.
I still like Leonard Floyd, and I think that I would put that third. And yeah, I mean, we're talking about 1A, 1B, 1C here, if we're being honest. But I think they got to address the outside on both sides of the football. And the cornerback situation, obviously, that becomes a bigger hole if they don't secure Kyle Fuller, either with the tag or with a long-term deal. But I'm just – that wide receiver group last year was awful. It's hard to operate any offense like that. And it's amazing Mitch did as well as he did with those wide receivers that he had, and even the tight end situation after Zach Miller got hurt. So I would still put that as the biggest hole. Edge rusher and corner right there too. And I think those are spots where you got to address it in both free agency and in the draft.
So who's the guy you're going to hit since it's wide receiver? Obviously, they tagged Landry. So who's your target now? Allen Robinson, obviously. That's what you said, basically. So, in the corner defensive backfield, I don't understand how you don't tag Kyle Fuller. When you look at this market, you look at the success rate of cornerback, and you look at the cohesiveness and how he is fitting, not only with Vic Fangio, but also in the philosophy of the defense. He's a tone setter, and his physicality gets overlooked too often, because there's not many tone centers at the cornerback position. So I don't understand, Adam, how Pace can go into this season not extending or controlling this football player and pulling the old let the homegrown talent walk.
Yeah, and that last part you brought up is something that I've talked about before on our podcast, and I don't think I think at some point you got to stop that trend of guys getting out of the building that you've drafted. Even if Ryan Pace didn't draft Kyle Fuller, I do think that matters. I think they're playing a little bit of a cat and mouse game. I think there's mutual interest. I know there's a report last week that the Bears are expected to lose him in free agency.
Let's not talk about Jason LaConfora on this podcast.
Yeah, I know that was the guy that reported. I just thought,
Adam, you have to take a time out for a second.
Yeah, I don't know how you could say that right now, because my understanding, my reporting on this is that both sides are interested in staying together. I think that there's a much greater chance of this being I'll put it this way. The mutual interest is much greater than last year with Alshon Jeffrey and the Bears. Okay. So I think Kyle, if he doesn't get tagged, is going to hit the open market with the idea that, hey, I have the right to, and I want to see what's out there. But I do understand that the Bears are a good situation for me. Staying with Vic Fangio is a good situation for me. And he has the right to do that as a free agent. I'm never going to criticize a player in that regard. I think what Ryan Pace has to decide here, what you just said is absolutely right. I mean, they need Kyle Fuller. It would be a bad idea to lose him. But is he to that top tier level that they want to commit $15 million? Or is he at a little bit lower level where they can take the risk of potentially losing him, understanding that there's mutual interest, and hoping that Kyle hits the market and understands that his best situation is in Chicago? That I can't figure out right now. That I don't know. That's up to Ryan Pace to understand the market. And the thing that always scares me in free agency is all it takes is one GM who may not care that he was targeted the most in the league last year. That bothers me. I kept every game. I was like, why are they still throwing at him? What am I missing here? And he did give up a ton of yardage, even though he only gave up 2 touchdowns. I think his season, and let me be careful here when I say this, I think Kyle's season was a little overrated. I still think he's a good player. I don't think, I think it's very encouraging that he performed the way he did. But you look at the total body of work over 4 years, and I have questions that last year. You got to look at this. Is 2017 going to be his best season of his career? That's what I wonder. And if it is, you don't want to commit $15 million to him next year, and certainly not, 13 or 14 over a longer period of time in a long-term deal.
Hey, Adam, when we're talking about Kyle Fuller, how do you think when I see him, I think a lot of what comes into play with him is confidence. I think he lost a lot of his confidence, after that first month of his rookie season, and then the coaching changes and everything. What I keep on referring back to is, last year, Vic Fangio was very point blank and really essentially called Fuller out and really was, in not so many words, questioning his heart if he really wanted to put in the effort to get out onto the field. But then this year we see Vic saying that they hung out in this past off season. They played a lot of golf together, and it really seems like they connected on a personal level. Now that we have Vic Fangio back, how much do you think that he plays in to the Fuller equation? Giving Kyle that, he had confidence in Vic off the field. Now on the field, he seems to be getting that confidence level up also. And Vic likes those physical cornerbacks that aren't afraid to put their face in and make a tackle, like Phil said. How much do you think that Vic Fangio plays into this equation of getting Fuller back? And do you think it's possible that was a part of the negotiation process of him coming back here? Like, hey, listen, I want Fuller back. Do you think that that's possible?
Well, I think regardless, the Bears wanted Vic Fangio back, whether it meant Kyle Fuller coming back or not. Do I think that Vic coming back helps the situation? I absolutely do. I think that you're reading that situation very accurately. I think Kyle has found a comfort level in Vic Fangio's scheme, and Kyle's kind of a quiet guy who's a little bit of an introvert. And if he goes somewhere else, he's got to fit in to a new locker room. Not that he can't, but he's been around. He's one of the longest tenured players in the Bears locker room, and so he's got a comfort level with this team, with this defense, with this defensive coordinator. And I have to imagine that that's something that he's certainly weighing and is working in the Bears' favor.
Before we move off Fuller, because I don't know where Aldo's going next, let's bring this to Pace, because as you were alluding to, and this past pattern, you can't let homegrown talent go. Ultimately, this game is a business, and now you have a position that gets paid very handsomely. I mean, look what the Giants paid Jenkins. You never know who's the hot commodity, but I know through people in the league that Fuller is a well-regarded piece to a lot of defenses' puzzle. So he's going to be a hot commodity. Now you know that, and you know the toughness of that position, and to find someone who's a willing tackler. I mean, you look at the kid in Kansas City, they're trying to trade him because he can cover, but he's not a willing tackler, where Kyle is, and he's fitting the system. How does Pace handle this? To me, says all I want to know about this guy, because I'm with you. I love the Trubisky move. I supported it. I've supported a lot of his maneuvers, but here you have an opportunity to have wealth, even if you were to trade Kyle Fuller. That's why I think, why wouldn't you put the tag on him coming up in free agency?
Well, I think that's probably something they're weighing right now. I do think that they want to see more out of him. I think that they certainly want to see him prove that it's more than just this 1-year wonder type deal. And that, so from that regard, you go, well, the tag makes the most sense because then you got him locked up for 1 more year. You can prove it or not prove it, and you figure out from there. But the risk is, well, do you think he should be making $15 million? That seems kind of excessive.
You're asking the wrong guy. I'm a guy that does. I don't worry about the money because you have so much of it. Every year, I always hear and I see manipulation of the cap. Bears are in a great cap space. What did they have to spend last year, Adam? $20 million still that they didn't spend during the season? Some crazy number like that. You let Alshon walk. You could have held him. You paid Mike Glennon essentially what you could have paid him and signed Glennon. The stuff doesn't make sense when it comes to the business of talent and the positional value that a corner is worth. So to me, yeah, I have so much space in the cap. I just let go of Sutton, which saved me $7 and $3.5 million. Look, Adam, we're almost there. $10.5 million, whatever it is. Tomorrow with Glennon, now you call that a wash, and you use every other resource. To me, the cap is fluid, and you know this. They can manipulate it. These teams have $1 million of cap space and manipulate it, sign 4 guys, 4 good guys, solid players or whatever. The Bears have not spent the money in a league they play for pay. I don't understand why you don't hold on to this chip. And even if you're hearing calls
Phil, wrap
to
it up.
make a trade. So I just want to see, I just don't get any Ryan Pace decision not to hold on to this talent. Well, if it's a fit.
What you're saying, though, is actually kind of what I said about Alshon last year. So I get where you're coming from on that because I still say, look, they had the space, they had the money, they could have tagged him again, and that's I still say that's what I would have done. So I understand where you're coming from. Let me just put it my guess here is when this all works out is that Kyle Fuller is going to be a Bear in 2018. It's maybe, certainly not 100%. Maybe it's 75-25 the way I'm feeling that way. But, my guess right now is that Kyle Fuller, one way or another, is going to be a Bear. And I think we just got to let this play out. Ryan Pace is interested I believe he's interested in bringing Kyle back. It's just about playing the market right now, and I think that's what's happening.
Adam, you've been very, very gracious and kind with your time. Before I let you go, I lured you on to into the Barroom by telling you that it would be a great opportunity for you to promote Sports Central, which is back. So tell our listeners, all of our listeners, I would say 75% of them listen to Hoge and Johns, the podcast. Tell them why they should listen to Sports Central as well.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. Look, we're going strong with Hoge and Johns. It's not gonna. I know people have been wondering, like, why are we on a hiatus right now? This is actually how we do it every offseason. Usually we have, a show at the Senior Bowl and then at the NFL Combine, and then we speed it up a little bit more when free agency and the draft come along. So we're still on our normal schedule, even though it doesn't seem like it. But in the meantime, we spent a lot of time launching Sports Central from the Super Bowl. Ton of football content that week. Obviously, it's February. Things are dying a little bit when it comes to football, but it's heating up again here as we get to the Combine, and there's plenty of football talk, and it's sort of just like an extension of, the way I look at it is an extension of Hoge and Johns. There's other sports. Obviously, we're talking more Chicago sports in general, but the cool thing is it's on every day. So we're Monday through Friday. We actually do it live from 1 to 2 p.m. Central Time on WGNradio.com and the WGN Radio app. But we're putting it out understanding that most people probably like we're hitting the podcast target, right? We're the people that are listening to this podcast right now. Mm-hmm. So you can find it on iTunes and Google Play and tune in by searching WGN Sports Central, and plenty of Bears coverage on there. And I think the cool thing is once the Bears season comes around again, is it's great doing the Hoge and Johns podcast twice a week. But there's so much going on, as you guys know, in the football world, that we can do Bear stuff every day during football season. And I think that's the cool thing that's going to come in with Sports Central in the fall is we're going to be able to hit the Bears every single day. So I encourage people to check it out, and I hope they enjoy what they're listening to.
Well, we definitely will. And again, you've been very gracious with your time. Our best to you, your family, and especially James Matthew.
All right. Thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right.
He's a good dude.
That was fun. He's
really
a good dude.
He really, really is.
I kept it light and tight. But then I had to go on that rant, Aldo, because I knew I'd get him to get aside.
Yeah. Well, and you can tell during the interview he was being politically correct. Like there were a couple of times he was saying, he even said at one time, I got to say this carefully or something, or words to that effect. So, what I would like to do next segment is talk a little bit about that talk with him. And then do you guys, I don't need to take a shit. Anymore.
You puckered up, didn't you? Or you took a shit?
No, I didn't.
If we only had to say that the first time of this now, Aldo would be gold.
Before the podcast started, Aldo says, "What, Shane?"
After we wrap up with Hoge, we're gonna have to regroup because I gotta take a shit.
I gotta take a shit. I go, really now?
I don't know what happened. It went away.
Metamucil.
I got a box of it. I still haven't opened it up. It was a Christmas
present. You all puckered up.
Yeah. Hoge's going to tune in tomorrow and listen back to a segment, and this is going to be the follow-up.
And I hope this shit goes viral. I want everybody to hear what I say.
Oh.
Gandhi's pinching one off in the bathroom, and I'm listening.
Gandhi has it on mute.
Oh, well, let's talk about what Adam said. There were a few times I was surprised that I just didn't agree with what his point of view were on a couple of things. You guys want to pick up on that topic while I go take a shit? No, I'm just kidding.
No, give us what you didn't agree with him, and then see if me and Shane agree with you or him.
Right. I thought that he was a little harsh on Kyle Fuller's performance in 2017. And I was going to, given, unfortunately, we're not in a real bar room where we could interrupt him and challenge him on stuff. And I would have challenged him and said, this guy was thrown at more than any other cornerback in the NFL. There's going to be times where he's not going to succeed. Cornerback is the toughest position to play on a defense. You're out there on an island. When you do a good play, it rarely gets noticed because sometimes it's off camera and you guard the guy and the quarterback has to look off and so forth. There's just so many things about a cornerback's play that is very difficult to judge. And I think, and we know that Adam looks at the tape, and so his opinion comes with a lot of value. But I simply thought that despite the fact that Kyle Fuller gave up a couple touchdowns in one game and so forth, I still see him as a tier 1, top of tier 2 cornerback, and you have to re-sign him. And Phil's point is very valid. Remember all of these contracts, and people say, oh, this guy is overpaid and so forth. And then 2 years later, the contract looks like a bargain. Jay Cutler, right? So
it's the Jay Cutler syndrome.
Exactly. There's no indication at all that the salary cap is going to plateau. It's going to continue to climb. And so you sign a guy.
It's never dropped in our lifetime.
And it won't, at least not in mine. I only got a few years left.
If you don't go take a shit, it might be quicker. I think one thing that comes into play, and I brought it up with Adam, was I think a lot of what's going on with Kyle Fuller is confidence. And Phil, you can attest to this. Quarterback, it counts for a lot. And to me, the other position on the football field where you have to have confidence to be able to play is cornerback. You have to have that short attention span when you get beat. All right, that sucked. Next down. I'm on to the next down already. Confidence is a huge factor, and I think Kyle Fuller lacked it for a very long time. I think there is some legitimacy to him maybe questioning his love for football, not really wanting to put his nose to the grindstone to get back. And I think a real wake-up moment for him was his defensive coordinator, like I said, coming out and really calling him out and challenging him. And you saw the confidence back this year. Like Phil said, he's sticking his face in there and making plays, not just breaking up the ball, not just tipping the ball away or getting an interception, but making a big tackle for a loss. That's right. That can ignite an entire defense. And I'm not done with Kyle Fuller having his arrow pointing up. He's 25 years old, 26. I still think there's room for growth as this entire defense gets better. When you add more pass rushers. So
Shane was breaking down offensive linemen tonight. Aldo's breaking down corner play. I'm fucking impressed.
But I like I said, I'm not done with him there. But at the same time, and I know Phil, you said that money doesn't matter, and Aldo, you were alluding to it a little bit. We all know that if it doesn't matter to you or I, it's mattering to teams in the NFL. Money always is a factor, and it's to me, I think a safe bet for Kyle Fuller is if you want to pay him a little bit less, you got the transition tag. You're going to let another team do the heavy work, and if they want him that bad, they drop a contract. It reverts back to Chicago, and you get to either match it or you let him go. If you franchise tag him, I don't think anybody's going to come forward and go after Kyle Fuller if he's franchised and give up the compensation for him that way. Transition tag, you're at 13 point whatever million. You can let another team do the heavy work of the contract negotiations, and then you got your guy.
Well, let me say this to Aldo's point, answering him and you at the same time. You were talking about his confidence. I think you're alluding that you agree with Aldo too. Hoge wasn't giving him enough credit. Think about his confidence with the safeties that are covering for him those years where his play suffered. Think about what injuries do, and the people around you can give a shit, and you're busting your ass, but you've got all this pressure on you because you're the first-round pick, and now it's becoming a terrible team with a terrible attitude. This is what he was learning from, the culture of Tressman, and then the switch with Fox, and then he gets in, and then he finds his place, and he's, like you said, he's 25 years old, and his place, to Aldo's point, he's covering errors. He's feeling refreshed because the surrounding cast is good at safety now. Don't break up a good thing because a few $1 million you can get him cheaper. Control the business and make the decisions. Be known talent staying. That is my point here, Shane. There's no money value. You assess what you need around knowing that you put the franchise tag on him and you're going to pay him for that 1-year tryout. The same thing he was doubling back on Alshon Jeffrey. Aldo knows, and Aldo was with me too. I think you were the only indifferent one. Put the tag on Jeffrey no matter what and control the value, the business side. He didn't do that. I don't take risks. I don't gamble. I don't go to the casino and put my money out there because I don't have enough. Right now, the Bears have plenty. So known commodity stays, Shane, to me.
You know what I was thinking of too, Phil, while you were talking about that, and I really haven't thought of it this way, but it really gets back to the confidence portion of it with Kyle Fuller is you saw, we all, his struggles over the last couple of years previous to 17 are well documented. And you see the connection that he made with Vic Fangio. Well, it seems like he got confidence in his defensive coordinator, so he needed that. Right. So that's step one. He doesn't have the confidence from the front office yet, because you saw the front office essentially cast him aside and say, all right, we're going to bring in Prince Amukamara. We're going to invest a multi-year deal into Marcus Cooper. So he doesn't have the confidence in the front office there. So if they are able to come to an agreement, a long-term agreement that shows him that the front office has confidence in him too, then that ties in. He's got confidence in Vic Fangio and vice versa. And now the front office has shown him the love with a agreeable long-term contract. And then that means that they also believe in Kyle Fuller. And then I think your confidence level goes up even more. And I think you're going to notice that on the field also.
Another thing that I was surprised at was when he said that he did not think that Trubisky's progression as a quarterback was hurt by Dowell Loggins. We've talked about this on this show. I'd love to really talk to him for 2 hours about this topic, because I saw a quarterback whose accuracy was better in preseason before he was, I forgot who it was that used the term fox intoxicated or infoxicated, because the play calling was so conservative, and they drilled into him, do not throw interceptions, that the guy lost that swag that he came in with. And Phil talked about it during the interview, that he saw a quarterback after a win who looked defeated. And I saw a quarterback whose performance regressed in some regards, because of what was happening with coaching, and primarily, John Fox's play calling and Dowell Loggins' execution as an offensive coordinator. I think you guys agree with me. Am I right or wrong?
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Totally agree.
I think the proof is kind of in the pudding. Who's still here? Dave Vergone, the quarterback coach. Dowell Loggins isn't here. And you can't tell me that Mitch didn't have some input on him staying as quarterback coach. Ryan Pace had, Dave Vergone and Matt Nagy share the same agent, so there's a connection there. But if Mitch Trubisky didn't want Dave Vergone as his quarterback coach, if he didn't feel comfortable with him, I don't think it matters who their agent is. I don't think Vergone would be here. I know we were all questioning the entire setup with the quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, head coach. To me, like I said, it's a really nod in the favor of the quarterback coach that Mitch had, that he was thought of enough to be brought back under an entirely new coaching staff. And I that really stuck out to me too, Aldo, when he said he didn't think that he regressed or anything like that because of Dowell. But
yeah, I like Hoge so much, but I really disagree.
But maybe we should have followed up with that. Was maybe he believed Dowell was being restricted by the head coach. Maybe that's what he believes.
That would have been a great follow-up.
What if
you dropped the ball, Bellamy? He wasn't too high on the receivers, I'll tell you that.
No.
I was going to ask him about Kendall Wright.
Yeah, and that was another thing that I didn't quite agree with him on. I mean,
I didn't agree with it.
This is not a Hall of Fame wide receiver core by any means, but those wide receivers were hurt by the play calling, and Kendall Wright, towards the end of the season, when he knew there was going to be a new coaching staff, called those suckers out. You can't catch the ball if they don't throw you the ball.
I mean, does it not echo in chorus what Jordan Howard and Adam referenced talked about at the Super Bowl? I mean, we don't bullshit on this fucking show. If Adam's listening, this is how we deal with the truth. And I'm going to say this. There's no doubt in my mind that those players are being truthful. And if they as coaches, if I as a coach, Aldo, made the decision that I was going to dumb down the offense or not take risks, then I'm actually hurting this quarterback and I'm hurting the team. and the way they look at him. So the complete opposite of what he saw immediately, if you go back and put his audio here, when he saw a player that the teammates respected right away. And that is why I was so emphatic about open competition, best player wins, best player plays. That message I know you're going to get with this new guy, because he has came up from the ashes in arena football and almost getting a chance to play quarterback. The story of Nagy is amazing, but to the point, there's no way that Dowell's conservativeness, and to Shane's point, we did drop the ball. We should have. I wish that was a smartest man in the room moment you missed, Shane, because that would have been a great foundation. Because you're right there, you know.
Yeah.
This Dowell's walking off the interview after Larry Mayer's going to grab his little recorder, and he's like, "This motherfuckers is it just happens. Coaches are humans, and they shit like Aldo. They fart, they put their pants on just like you do, and they complain about everything, the coffee to the Gatorade being too sweet. Whatever it is, the porters are around the NFL all the time. They know. So that's why I wanted to see if they were worried about his confidence in that moment. There's just no doubt in my mind, Shane.
Hey, guys, how, not just because it was my question, but how telling was it when I brought up the defense dictates who plays? How telling was his comment? I mean, was it?
That was a great question.
That was, it really kind of let you in behind the curtain of, like, they were no different than us as fans watching this. I mean, I saw that on TV and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Did this just happen? And he said, Adam essentially said the same exact thing. Like, holy shit, did I hear that right? You know, it's just, it's baffling. This is the NFL. And you have a fucking offensive coordinator making a comment like that. It's just, ugh.
I got a text after that week from my dad, who copied another text from a coach that rhymes with baloney that is somewhere coaching in the NFL, and he quoted Dowell Logan's statement that week, and he said, "Tell Phillip this is what a freshman football coach would do." And now, and that is disgusting, but think about the fact that he coached with Tressman and was kind of gagging. Oh, you think you got it better? Look at this. This is freshman football type of mistake here.
You guys want a little bit of possible breaking Chicago Bears news?
Yes. Shane does this.
Guessing here a little bit, but Quentin Demps just tweeted out, "Take a loss. You don't cry about it. You just embrace it."
Wow.
Oh.
Quentin
Demps. I'm kind of shocked at that, Shane. Because I talked about this last night. Can I make the point and then you counter?
Absolutely.
You got number 43, your favorite football player, going out there starting games after Amos goes down. You have a rookie safety with a rod. How thick is his rod? We don't know.
I couldn't force it in there. I was going to try. But...
So the injury situation, historically, as consistent as the non-Pro Bowl quarterback is in Chicago, has been the injury mark at the safety position. So here's a guy, granted, coming off an injury, that talent-wise and money, what is he, $3.5 million? I don't know.
Yeah, I
wouldn't cut that.
Well, my biggest thing, Phil, is I think Demps is 33 or 34 years old. They have a couple of young guys in the wings. We're going to get DeAndre Hall back here, and you've heard.
Are we? I mean, Jesus. Krasinski.
He was on IR, and they didn't bring him back. But DeAndre Houston Carson is another one that Ryan Pace obviously has confidence in. We have seen Ryan Pace dabble in the UDFA market, and obviously there's still free agency to go. So I can kind of understand. I know where you're coming from. It's nice to have that veteran presence back there, but at the same time, Adrian Amos is that veteran linchpin back there to me. He hasn't seen as much as Quentin Demps, but at the same time, when you have a guy that's 34 years old that has started his entire career, he may not be too accepting of just taking on that reserve role. And, he may want to, maybe he went to management and said, hey, if you can let me out of this, I have a chance. I've talked to Team A, Team B, Team C, and I got a better shot because
change.
Right.
Hush,
hush, hush. But to me, when you're talking about backup positions like that, I would much rather roll with the upside of youth than the experience of a guy that's right at the tail end of his career. And I'm not completely down on Houston Carson, and DeAndre Hall is a complete wild card because we don't.
What about Deion Bush?
That's another young guy. So you're kind of clearing a little bit of that congestion for one of these young guys to step up, and I have no problem with that. I'm gonna
give you the win. I'm gonna give you the win there.
You win.
You're making sense.
I did a whole lot better than Aldo's toilet's doing right now, I'll tell you that.
What about Arthur Arkish's point of Adrian Amos?
So foolish.
Oh, we have to talk about that.
I don't want to ruin the worst, dumbest tweet of the week, but holy shit, are you fucking serious?
You serious?
Like, who this? You are that dumb that you can't recognize a tone setter, a difference maker, based on... that is a showcase of pure stat scout.
Right.
Look at how many interceptions you have and totally miss the freaking fact that he's filling gaps and making open field tackles that are fucking just full. The shot he put on McKinnon.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know. That should be... That is one of the greatest tackles I've seen made since Urlacher was here.
And how many guys did he make his presence felt in that Baltimore game when he returned home? He was inspired to be back there, and he ended up having I believe he had the pick six in that game, actually, too.
He took
in Baltimore.
that to the house.
Yeah.
Not a difference maker.
But you hit it out of the park there, Phil. It's saying stat scout, and that's what it is. You hear the Bears get painted in that corner of not forcing enough turnovers and not having enough interceptions, and then they turn and they look at Adrian Amos and they say, there you go. He had the one pick, and they need to do better there. But again, as I said with Kyle Fuller, there's still an upside there. There's still an upside with Adrian Amos, and here we are. He's really one of the I don't really want to say the elder statesman, but he's been, I think they drafted him in 2015. So he's got 3 years in the league now, and he's going to be one of your senior members back there, in the secondary and really on the defense that's been in Chicago. So like I said, I think it's just I put it in the category of the Bears are taking Calvin Ridley at number 8. It's just laziness. Say, Bears need a wide receiver, so they're automatically going to draft one at number 8. And I really don't think it's any more than that.
I know Aldo will pull up, but I think he was one of the highest, if not the highest graded. And you know how I feel about PFF. It's good for a punt, but when they match up with what I see on tape, then I know we're walking step for step, because some of the things, like offensive line grades, are kind of fuzzy because they don't know blocking scheme. So if a guy stepped with the wrong foot but still made the block, he gets a good grade. If it's somebody else's responsibility, they get a bag. They don't know. So, but when you come to a safety position and you're talking about a guy filling an alley, being the last line of defense, Aldo is 100% right. That cornerback being on the island and having to play that position is completely difficult. But the physicality and the ability to cover. There was several plays this season where he closes in on a guy short of a first down, causing them to have to punt. That kind of turnover in downs shortens drives and gives the ball back to you. That's why you don't listen to these stat scouts. The reality is this is a foundational piece. This is something that a new head coach is assessing and a defensive coordinator would want to stay to be a part of, because you have that position locked up on the back end.
I'm bringing up this Pro Football Focus comment on Adrian Amos, and they actually selected Adrian Amos for their All-Pro team. They gave him
I selected him. It was a travesty.
Yes.
That him and Hicks
absolutely
did not make the Pro Bowl.
And they gave him a grade of 92.0 and said that this was an elite stat. Among safeties with 30-plus targets in 2017, Amos tied for fourth in yards allowed per snap in coverage. And that's just amazing. Let me read the paragraph that they wrote about him. Adrian Amos is seen by many as just another guy, but his ability to simply make the plays you expect a safety to make is not to be underestimated. Safeties, by their nature, are almost contingency players, coming downfield to add to run fits and adding coverage help on the back end to shore up the cornerbacks. Amos notched 26 defensive stops, just 2 fewer than Smith managed on almost 300 and fewer snaps. He may not make as many splash plays as other players at that position, but he makes all the expected plays without making mistakes, and that is very well written. I bet you Lauren Cox had a hand in writing that if he didn't write it off.
I was going to say, did they just listen to the show and take every word I said?
Right. And you want to know what?
But one teaser before Shane gives his point. Phil Atoshin put out a video on Jordan Howard called Mr. Underappreciated. If you haven't seen it and you're listening on YouTube or wherever you're listening, Google Play, go over to bearsbarroom.com or the YouTube channel, Bears Barroom on YouTube. Give that a 9-minute and 28-second look.
Here's your clip, Phil.
You can't catch the football. This is true. And if you can't catch the football, you're not an elite running back.
And it could be a home run. Jordan Howard inside the 15, the 10, right out of bounds.
Howard, to me, the most underappreciated back in the NFC. No wonder
that video is getting tons of hits. Head over to bearsbarroom.com if you want to see it in its entirety. Like Phil said, it's 9-minute and 28 seconds, and you can always check it out at YouTube, which you should be subscribing to our YouTube channel, Bears Barroom. And Phil, I know you're working on another one, and who is it? Who's the player?
I'm going to take to Adrian Amos. And now I can use Arthur Arkish as our vice or our muse, so to speak, to bring in the Amos highlight film. So that's what I'm going to be working on for Bears Barroom. And Shane, go ahead with your Amos point.
Well, all I was going to allude to, you're talking about, like you said, Arthur Arkish and killing Adrian Amos, and this guy's 24 years old. You know what I mean? And that Aldo brought up.
Is he 19?
Oh God! Don't get me started.
We got to talk about that too.
Yeah, don't get me started with that. And I'm not really comparing the two players, but Adrian Amos, he's completed 3 years in the league. He's 24 years old. Eddie Jackson just completed his rookie year. He's 24 years old. We're not writing Eddie Jackson off. Adrian Amos' first couple of years, his first year, he played in one of the worst. Yeah, exactly. It's just people don't see the splash plays, and that's how you brought up Mr. Underappreciated Jordan Howard. They don't see the big splash plays, the big 85-yard touchdown run where nobody's within 40 yards of them. Everybody loves that. The people that play Madden, 97 speed, they get excited about that. They look at Adrian Amos, and Aldo put it perfectly. The lack of splash plays.
Yeah, man.
People translate that to mean, then the guy can't play. He's not worth keeping around. I think Arkish brought up making Eric Reed a cornerstone of the Bears defense and going after him in free agency. It's just That type of stuff drives me crazy.
Oh my God.
You have a guy here right now that's 24 years old. Again, arrow pointing up, just like it is with Eddie Jackson. These guys should be here for a long time together. Let them grow. The consistency part of it, it's just like on the offensive line. Charles Leno talked about it in an interview today through ChicagoBears.com, talking about how he's what has he had? I think they said it's approaching double digits, the amount of left guards that he's played with in his time in the NFL. He's 25 years old, Charles Leno. And he's played with like almost 8 or 9 different left guards already in his career. It matters. The consistency, the cohesion with that unit matters.
Oh, without a doubt.
It's no different than the safeties, Phil. It's the same type of thing. You have to have that innate sense of looking over at Eddie Jackson and not screaming out to him. You just see that nod of the head. You know exactly what it means. You see him just, wave his hand a certain way, and Adrian Amos knows what that means. But this constant turnover isn't helping anybody. You have to have some consistency back there if you ever want to have a payoff. So there's lots of upside there. I don't know why people are so quick to want to move on from them.
Holy shit. Bringing it, Shane.
That's why they got to listen here. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's the smartest man from New York to Honolulu. But I worried about last week's smartest tweet in the window. Was it voodoo? He's the smartest man.
All right, guys. This is somebody that we all hold near and dear to our heart, and his name is Aaron Lemming, at Aaron Lemming.
Oh, this is worth the horns, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to keep this short and sweet because we don't want to give him too much airtime here on our show. But Aaron tweeted out just a gut feeling, but I think we see the Bears make some roster moves this week, especially with the combine next week and free agency coming up. Well, no shit, Nostradamus. It's the fucking NFL offseason. All 32 teams do it. Thank God we got that info from you, Aaron. Insider extraordinaire. Very good. Let's move on.
Aldo, speaking of which, I know your film company has been working hard and diligently on a film. This would be a good time to drop that. The trailer.
Okay. Yeah, this is my Citizen Kane. Here's the trailer.
Columbia Pictures presents an Aldo Gandia film.
Look at the blue check mark. He's got to be telling the truth.
In association with Canadian movies comes an epic battle and journey of the mind.
I love me some of that Twitter.
This fall, in a social media world.
I mean, if he said it, it must be true.
Infested with useless, pointless, absolutely stupid
this
tweets.
This motherfucker said what?
One man rises above all others.
Just a gut feeling, but I think we see the Bears make some roster moves this week, especially with the combine next week and free agency coming up.
A hero to the brainless.
Hey, this guy's an insider.
4 weeks today, the legal tampering period starts, which means free agency, essentially. Free agency.
Well, no shit, Sherlock.
A friend to the simple-minded. To common sense.
I mean, if he said it, it must be true.
He is Aaron Lemming.
Hey, this guy's an insider.
AKA Captain Obvious. In theaters this fall.
Well, according to my fake-ass sources, he covered them tweets like he covered them feets. Flip-flops.
Home run. Home
like
run.
He covered them feet. Flip-flops.
Oh, yeah.
Man, and I hope this shit goes viral.
Do I bring it when I step
That is awesome, brother.
That was awesome.
Oh, my God.
Big shout out to Bobby Phelan. Bringing all those voices.
Oh, Bobby,
And
nicely
Diddy.
done.
Nasty, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And B. Diddy, too. That's awesome.
And B. Diddy.
Nasty.
Great job, guys. That was awesome.
Great job. Aaron, you've got
Instant
something.
classic.
You got something for your webpage there that will definitely increase your followers. That was super.
Let's let all the barflies know that Phil and I did not have this planned.
Hell no, he didn't. That's why I was like, I gotta interrupt this program because this is too good to Now he can go down his one. Phil and I had a disagreement, and I don't know why people are talking about it, but let me use my platform to talk about it too. Jesus Christ.
But yeah, I have to admit that those were some fucking obvious tweets, and we've all been guilty of it. I've been guilty of putting up a tweet, and then after a while I looked at that. Why the fuck did I tweet that?
Oh yeah, I'm famous for that on game day. The Bears will have a third down. I'm like, this is a big point in the game. Well, yeah, no shit. It's third down in an NFL game.
We're all guilty of it. But,
we all do it.
Some of us more so than others, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I think in the moment is okay, to be perfectly honest. I forgive that because you're reminding people, hey, this is a big moment. Yeah. So I don't think you're throwing the jack shit obvious when this guy's selling himself. I mean, he calls himself an insider. So have some fun, Aaron. Laugh at yourself because those tweets.
Because we are.
Yeah, we are.
Totally. We are. That was classic. Oh yeah.
The flip flopper. Oh yeah.
The smartest man drops knowledge, always leaves fans wanting more. But if you show up at his house unannounced, leave those panties at his door.
Yes, not on my head, preferably.
He's the smartest man, and this is his tweet of the week.
Very well done. Very well done.
Yeah, geez, after that, Phil, I don't know if this is going to be very good. That might be the tweet of the century that we just went over right there. But friend of the Barroom, Kent Lee Platte, I think that's how you say his last name, right?
That's correct. That's correct, yes.
Yeah, and it's at Matt Bomb. We've butted heads for a little bit back 2 or 3 years ago. We went back and forth had the big Urlacher debate if he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And
you serious?
Kent didn't think that he was, and I thought he was. So smartest man won on that one. But Kent sent out a good tweet earlier today, and it kind of flies in the face of me picking on Aaron Lemming's really super obvious stupid tweet. But Kent did have a really good point in this time of the year with free agency and draft analysis and just everything in the NFL offseason. I thought it kind of rang true, and it's something that we should all probably keep in mind, as hard as it is, especially with us being so open and blunt here at the Barroom. But he tweeted out a reminder for all football and draft bloggers. Number 1, we share an audience. We're not competing for it. Number 2, if you disagree, it's not because you're right and they're wrong. It's because you see something different. Engaging allows you to learn. Number 3, see number 1 and 2, and also don't be a dick.
Moral is, don't be a dick.
I'm just as guilty as anybody is. I know Phil can be a dick.
Don't be
I can be a dick. Aldo, you too.
Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick.
We all get into our little Twitter feuds. I had one here back and forth with AJ here earlier, but at the end of the day, none of that shit matters.
Right.
Everybody's going to have their own opinion, and debate is healthy. Everybody should debate, and if you have a difference of opinion, it doesn't mean that you're right or I'm wrong. Just like Kent said, it's everybody should be all the better for it. And like I said, debate is really what this is all about, and it should make everybody a smarter person at the end of the day. And maybe you do learn something. It shouldn't all be about, oh, this guy doesn't like Tremaine Edmonds, so he's a dickhead and he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm a Tremaine Edmonds fan. AJ is not. Doesn't mean that I'm right. Doesn't mean that AJ is wrong. But, the proof will be in after the first couple of years of his career and see how he plays, and we'll see what plays out. But I think it really is a good tweet, and it's something that we should all think about moving forward, as hard as it is, because we're all hard-headed and I don't want to say closed-minded, but we really can be sometimes. But Kent Lee Platte at MathMom, you are my tweet of the week.
And an excellent choice. I just have to add that, one of the things that we do here at the Barroom is we bust balls. And have we sometimes overstepped the limit of maybe acceptable good taste, or just, maybe laid it on a little too thick? I'm sure we're guilty
Hell no.
And I busted a few vaginas in my day, Aldo, too. To be honest.
Well, I was just going to say, nobody leads the Barroom in more blocks than Shane. He's been blocked he's been blocked a lot more often than I've been kicked out of bars, and that's quite a bit.
I told Hoge not to bring up Jason Locke on floor. I told him.
That's right. But, in the end, it's about busting balls, and whether, we have a grudge against somebody or whether it's just busting balls, it's all good-natured fun, and I think Ken Platte deserves that tweet of the week because he really nailed it right there, especially now during the discussion of free agency and the draft and all the tension that's going on in the country. It's very, very easy to say the wrong thing, make the wrong joke and stuff. So well done, Shane. All right,
I love that guy. I don't know why Shane ever had any fucking disagreements with him.
He told me Urlacher didn't deserve to go on first ballot, and Ray Lewis did. So I had a problem with that.
Matt, you owe my friend an apology.
You serious?
No, I'm joking. I love you, Matt.
And let me just say this about Ken also, that he's a Detroit Lions writer. But one of the things that he does every draft time, man, we should get him on the show to talk about this, is Kent is he's a brilliant numbers guy. That's what he loves. I mean, I look at numbers and my ADD, dyslexia, all that shit kicks in. I can't make sense of any of it.
With you, buddy.
But he's got this brilliant RAS system, and I forget what the acronym is for, but it has to do with athletic skills. And he actually, he's been doing it for so long that when Bryant Urlacher went to the combine or his numbers were tested, Brian Urlacher was one of the top numbers he's ever had, as close to a 10.0 as you can get. And so this is a good time to follow Kent at MathBomb and to follow him with his RAS system. And maybe we'll get him on the show to talk a little bit numbers.
We got to get him on. I love
and when you start following him, just send him out a tweet.
First ballot?
Yeah. Hashtag it Urlacher first ballot Hall of Fame. Courtesy of at Wazram at Bear Farm.
Well done.
Bottom left.
Bear up, bear down. Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man around. They're watching the tape and weighing. The game is done. The Bears have lost or won. They're playing. The boys are grading.
All right, we have a very special edition of Bear Up, Bear Down. We're going to not talk about any of the players, but we're going to talk about the reporters who cover the players. That's right. In honor of Adam Hoge being a guest on the show, Shane and Phil are going to present to us the one Bear beat writer, guy that covers the Bears, that they really look forward to reading or listening to, and that excludes Adam Hoge, because we all love him. And the one Bears beat reporter who is down, the guy that we really don't like him very much. And if he were to get a job working for ESPN Deportes in Bolivia, that would be okay by us. So I'm going to spin the bottle here. And hey, we're starting with Phil. Draft Dr. Phil, who you have as your Bear up?
My Bear up. This is tough, because I don't know how far outside the margins I can color. But because a lot of the beat writers are just, they're not Adam Hoge. I praise truthfully. I'm not going to kiss anyone's ass, but I look at the contenders, and to me, I'm going to throw my friend, Greg Gabriel. He's considered a beat writer, or no?
I think that's a good choice. I think that falls within the rules of the game.
So Greg, to me, people dislike him, other people love him. I'm 100% in the raft with a guy that's going to be truthful, controversial, because of the truth, a guy that's actually done it, a guy that's scouted for years and been around these coaches and the anatomy of what goes on in the locker room. The way Greg, older gentleman, learning the social media market and just dealing with my dad, who's 76, and teaching him how to do these things, to tap into that says a lot about Greg. And I totally enjoy, whether I agree with him or not, as Shane's smartest tweet of the week said, Greg has been on Bears Hour Live with us, and he talked about George Young saying, Hall of Famer George Young saying, I want people that are going to disagree with me. I want the truth. I want debate, because that's healthy, exactly what Shane and you were saying. And that's how you unroot other things that you don't see. So for me, Greg does that, and he does it well. I mean, I just can't tell you enough. I know Greg was one of the first quote-unquote professional beat writers or Bears people saying, this is awful what you're seeing coaching-wise, and expressing the importance. So it's not because it's like-mindedness for me. It's because I completely embrace blunt truth. And if you can't have respect for that, you're a complete steroided-up idiot that can't handle themselves socially, because you're the complete hypocrite. So you got to look in the mirror and say, do I say stuff truthfully? Do I go out there and attack? Do I do these things that are just from my history? And I think Greg does that tremendously. And you know what? From his stories and his look at the Bears, I have confidence in where he's coming from. I don't always agree with Greg, but I totally enjoy it. And I think that's what a media, because I don't agree with Adam all the time. Tonight we didn't agree with him. But I totally, like we said, respect that guy, because he gives his truth. And that, to me, is the most important thing.
I love the choice, that guy, and I totally agree with you. I don't always agree with Greg. In fact, I go through like a period of time where I read tweets, and it's like, man, that's like the 10th tweet in a row that I don't agree with Greg. But I love his bluntness. I love his crustiness. I love his candor. I love the fact that he won't back down from a fight from the highest powers in the world to the lowest scumbag on Twitter.
Pro Football Talk. He's going at it with Dove Kleiman.
Fuck off! That's what you can do.
He's calling Aaron Lemming out. How do you not love this guy?
Yeah, that's entertainment.
Blunt and crusty. I thought we were back on Aldo's bowel movement still.
Listen, one thing about Greg, and then I'll shut up, is the guy just wants you to be truthful. And if you're not, he's going to call you out on how many of the Adam Hoge, as much as we love him, you don't think he reads the tweets? Obviously, yeah, I know who you are. I remember. He knows. Is he going to agree with Philatoshin or Shane or whoever? But he's seeing it. Is he going to say, no, you're absolutely wrong? He doesn't get involved in that. I love the fact that Greg will. Even he's not searching. Shane, you and I talk about this all the time. Bears bar flies. You guys feel this. Greg isn't looking if you have a blue check mark next to you to either answer a question or get into a debate or discussion. That to me is class. That to me is doing it right. And that to me is somebody who's not afraid because they know what the fuck they're talking about.
I love it. Shane, it is now your turn to tell us who is up in your playbook, your notebook, your love book of Bears reporters.
You ever heard of a little guy named Larry Mayer? Because it ain't him.
Launch with Larry Mayer.
I'm kind of falling under the same scope as Phil. I don't know if this technically qualifies at it, but Matt Bowen.
Oh,
is that acceptable?
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm a big Matt Bowen fan. I always like these guys that, he played in the NFL for a long time, played for 3 or 4 different teams, and kind of worked his way up through the ranks. And he's done it the hard way, but he did it the right way with hard work. And he's seen, so many different systems, and like I said, doing it, kind of climbing up that ladder along the way. Like I said, he's seen so much. I really appreciate when after his playing career, he was with Chicago Tribune, I think it was, and then National Football Post. And I always enjoy reading the perspective of a player like that that's really worked his way up through and
coached high school.
Yeah, coaches high school, very very good team, and I believe they were state champs this past year. But he's a great follow on Twitter because he breaks down a lot of film, and he'll tell you he had a couple of tweets lately about that he's a big Tremaine Edmonds fan, and he's a big Roquan Smith fan also. So that's been a
19, Shane.
Yeah, it's been a hot debate here in Bears Twitter land. But
can't play outside.
I appreciate it, like I said, because he's a guy that's been there. He's done that. He's seen so many different things that you or I, or maybe not so much Phil, have seen, and he tends to break it down so it's easily understood by maybe somebody that's not quite as invested as we are, and he makes it really easy to follow along. So Matt Bowen, big fan. I whenever he does have an article out there, I know he's with ESPN now, but I always find myself reading whatever he puts out because I feel like I'm a smarter fan because of it. So yeah, Matt Bowen, he was an easy pick for me.
Matt Bowen, Bowen. For those of you who do not know who he is, Google him and you will find his stuff entertaining. He's got this gift of talking about football strategy in a way that's understandable even to the layman football fan. So I like that pick. All right, now it gets juicy with our Bears beat writer. Phil, take it away.
Well, for me, it's about value. It's about what you bring to the discussion and the table. You look at it and you see misleading or taking the easy way out. Adam was alluding to it. There's guys there, and we know it. And to me, this is a difficult choice. It honestly is, to choose one, and that says a lot because there's a lot to choose from. But to me, you look at how these guys have access and what they actually give back. To me, this is almost like Mike Burton. And it's a toss-up between two guys. But for me, I have to go with Larry Mayer because you're there. You work for the team. And I know they all feel bad and he's got it tough. I don't know how tough he has it when you're right there in the locker room working for this organization. Say he can't ask the hard question. He can get the great story. He can get the story about Jordan Howard. He can get the Tariq Cohen, sit down and talk to him and learn that the effort isn't there. It's not given to the fan base. So if you're in that position, it's up to you to dig deep and find the story on Josh Morgan's rehab and what's going on with him as he comes into year 2. That is what you're there to do, to educate the fanboy that doesn't know who the hell Josh Morgan is. And that's what you don't get. And if you're that close, like he's closer than a Jeff Dickerson, he was 1B here, to this situation. If you're that close and you drop the ball and you're always taking this tone, the simple way out, to me, that guy's the bear down.
Yeah, it's, you know what, it's a tough job, as Hoge was saying, because he's a paid employee of the Chicago Bears. So, you know, can he speak truth to power? If he had some balls, maybe. But I think he prefers to play company safe, and so I'm with you there. I wish he would be a little bit more of a sports journalist and not the company man. Shane Marsaw, who do you got?
Well, Phil gave you a little bit of a teaser there at the end of his rant with Jeff Dickerson, and that was I wrote down 2 guys, Dan Weeder and Jeff Dickerson. Jeff Dickerson was the first one that I wrote down, so I really thought Phil was going to go with him. So I was fully prepared to have my backup. But Dickerson is, you know, he puts out a lot of, I know another ESPN guy, and they're not really concerned with being right. They're more concerned about just pushing content out and then throwing shit at a wall and just seeing what sticks a lot of times. And, you know, even when he does his radio spots, when Waddle and Sylvie have him on, I never gain any knowledge that isn't, you know, we were talking about Aaron Lemming sending out that tweet that was, you know, a Captain Obvious tweet that really everybody knows. I get a lot of that with Jeff Dickerson. And Waddle and Sylvie, when they have him on at the end of his segment, that he's like, all right, Jeff, is there anything else that you can fill us in on? Anything else that we should know? And every time he's like, yeah, no, not really. You know, it's like, I'm not going to go off script at all. And even his writing, you know, he talked about Marcus Wheaton could possibly be cut. Well, that's not breaking news. That's something that we could have told you during the
gut's telling me.
Yeah, exactly. Pernell McPhee is possibly on the chopping block. Well, thanks, Jeff.
Take a pay cut.
Yeah, that's
could
fantastic.
Possibly be gone, Shane.
Yeah, you know, we're talking about our favorite guy. Can you imagine Jeff Dickerson sitting down and breaking down some film for the fans and seeing how that would go? I don't think he puts a whole lot of effort into his NFL gig talking about the Bears.
Would he know where the top of the key was?
Yeah, he could float to the top of the key. Exactly. But never been a Dickerson fan. Never felt like I came out of any article from him with like, wow, that was a fantastic point. It's just obvious drivel that, you know, my 6-year-old son could probably write if I gave him a few minutes and a pencil. But not a big fan of Dickerson's radio spots or his articles whatsoever. Like I said, I'm not gaining anything from it like I am with a Matt Bowen. So yeah, Jeff Dickerson is definitely my bear down beat writer.
You know, this is an interesting time in Chicago sports reporting, and as everybody knows, I'm very close to collecting Social Security, so I've been reading the Chicago sports reporters for a long, long time, and there's more of them than ever. But boy, I'm with you there, Shane. Not only about Dickerson, but in general with most of the Chicago sports media, there just isn't anyone that really is shining right now, with the exception of 2 or 3 names that we've already mentioned. The majority of them are just sort of ho-hum, and hopefully that's going to change soon, because one of the things that's going to change is that the Chicago Bears are going to start playing some better football. So I'd love to see some really good reporting on what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong in this new era of Matt Nagy football.
Steak and whiskey, the Bears barroom vibe just hits me. Steak and whiskey, that Bears barroom vibe just hits me. Steak and whiskey, that Bears barroom vibe just hits me. Steak and whiskey, that Bears barroom vibe just hits me. Who needs pussy? That Bears barroom vibe just hits me. Who needs pussy? Come on, barflies. They need Bears, they know they do. They need pussy. The Bears barroom vibe just hits me. Yeah, you love that steak and that fucking whiskey, coming from the colonel of the barflies, Bizzy. He looks at the frauds in the media, the ones that need and don't get pussy like chlamydia. Bears 100 proof with your man Trey Bizzy. Discover who needs pussy cause the football take is shitty. Shoutouts finest coming real on 100 proof. Working on a skyscraper, listen to the bar. Spit the truth, waffle cone, get 3 scoops. A writer not a blogger cause he could bench the weight room. That's my boy Trey Biz, dropping truth on these suckers for the barfly whiz kids. Whiskey, the Bears barroom.
All right, it is time to bring in the man, the legend, the man.
I'm already on here. I'm already online.
His name is Alec Lifschultz III, also known as Trey Bizzy.
Yo.
There he is.
There he is.
What's up, fellas? You know what? It's weird because the song is called Stone Cold Steve Austin, but when Trey comes in the house, the temperature goes up.
It gets a little hot. It gets a little hot when you drink that whiskey, man.
Is that Trey that we got, or is that Marvin Bagley over there?
Marvin Bagley.
Phil doesn't know who the fuck we're talking about, Trey.
I have no idea. Is that a baseball player or something?
Oh God.
We know Phil, the football guru, man. But that's crossing over the basketball line. You don't mess with that.
Oh, it's a basketball. I have no idea.
The hoops, man. The hoops. You don't follow basketball at all, Phil?
Absolutely nothing. I went to my first college basketball game since UConn had El Amin playing point guard back. What was that? 2000 maybe.
That's right, man.
Yeah. So I saw them lose to Tulsa the other night, but it was fun. I like the college game, to be perfectly honest. I think assessing athletic ability, you always throw a basketball out to your players, and you really could tell who athletically and agile-wise is the best athletes. I always would use that as a barometer, but the NBA, to me, I haven't watched a game since Magic and Michael Jordan were playing. So
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Nobody's perfect, Phil.
Wow.
Not into it, guys. Just not.
Wow. Well, at least you can
throw a
football.
Busy watching tape, Aldo.
Yeah, well, and at least you could throw a football through a basketball hoop from 50 yards away. So at least you got that going for yourself.
I saw that shit, man. That was some good shit. Right
that was pretty awesome. All right, if you're listening to the show for the first time, Alec Lifschultz, a.k.a. Trey Bizzy. He comes on to the show with his steak and whiskey segment, and he kind of lays down the boom on somebody in the media world or Twitter sphere, and he lets them know that maybe you need some pussy because what you're saying makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, and we're having a hard time deciphering what the hell is going on. So, Trey, you weren't with us last week, so we're going through some steak and whiskey withdrawals. Why don't you take over, brother?
All right. Well, I feel like I haven't been with you guys in a while.
Yeah, man. Really.
So,
the girlfriend debacle. Fires, gunshots.
Hey man, it's
injured hands.
Hey dude, it's real out here though, man. Like
this is like an episode of Chicago PD.
it's Chicago, man. It's real out here, really. For real. So the cat I chose this week, man, this dude Arthur Arkish.
Yeah, his name came up earlier. Go for it.
Yeah.
So like, come on, man. Like, we already know how we feel about Adrian Amos over at the Bears Barroom. We feel like he's an integral part of the defense. We need him on the field. You know, without him on the field, we don't have that enforcer out there that's gonna come in and smack somebody's pads off. We don't got that out there. So this guy, this morning, was pretty much promoting, saying, "Oh, the Bears need to sign this safety from 49ers, Eric Reed." And I'm like, why? He's like, "Oh, you know, Eddie Jackson needs a partner out there." I was like, really? Like, I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? He said Adrian Amos has 1 interception and 10 pass defended in 44 games. I was like, okay. Then he goes on to say, "I know what Pro Football Focus says about him, but I think, you know, he was a nice find in round 5, but why is it so complicated?" Like, dude, first of all, you just contradicted yourself, okay? If you don't give a fuck about stats and shit, why are you bringing up somewhere that has stats? Why are you bringing up stats if you don't care about stats? That doesn't make sense. Like, and the guy he's saying that we should replace him with, ironically, didn't have better stats than Adrian Amos this year. Mm-hmm. The guy, you know, he said he was replacing with had 52 total tackles this year. You know, Amos had 60. This guy had 1 forced fumble. Adrian Amos had like 3 of them. And not only fuck the amount he had, the fumbles he had were very important at the time that they happened. Exactly. They were very important at the part of the game. They helped those games. You know, I mean, and then another thing I hear about this guy is he plays free safety, first of all. But the thing I hear about him is that he has a lot of concussions. So I hear about him. That's kind of dangerous to bring in a player that has a history of concussions, man. You know, we don't need nobody that's gonna get a concussion and fuck around and have to retire that year. You know. Right. So it's like 3 things wrong with that. He's not a better player. He doesn't bring the same presence as Adrian Amos, and the guy can't stay healthy. So why the fuck would we bring him on our team?
So let me ask you a question, Trey. How would you take care of Mr. Arkish? How would you set him straight?
I used to know this freak bitch back in the day. I might have to go. I have to go through one of my old phone, man. Get her number or something. She might be willing.
Can you slap? Is Hub? Is that his son?
Yeah, that is his son.
Yes.
Can you slap his daddy too while you're at it? Rip that hoop earring out.
Oh my god, the guy has a hoop earring.
Hub does.
Yeah, Hub does. Yeah.
Which ear is it? Is it the right ear or the left ear?
I think it is the left. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I'm about to say, if it's the right ear, he got a little fruit in his tank.
Not that there's anything wrong with that Seinfeld reference.
Oh, hey man, that's their life. Go ahead and live it, man. But shit, you know, I'm just saying they got to stop disrespecting Amos, man. You know, we gonna take up for the truth, and Amos is the truth.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier on here, Trey. I think a lot of it, like you said, stat scouts, and Aldo brought it up, not making the big splash plays. There's so many people out there that look at their Madden rosters and are basing everything off the speed and agility ratings and like I said, making Ed Reed type plays out there. And this guy's 24 years old and people are writing the kid off like he even get better than what he showed this year. It's just pure craziness.
It really is. And it bears repeating. I'm glad you brought that up because when I saw that tweet, I retweeted it with a 3-letter word, huh? What the hell is this guy drinking? I mean, and we were, Trey, we had Adam Hoge on earlier in the show, and we were talking about the reporters who spend time, looking at film and doing the homework and so forth. And so, the Arkish family is very well known in Chicago for being those kinds of football experts, guys who look at the film and have a lot of knowledge. That's their reputation. But when Alan Arkish, the son, posts that, you got to wonder, what the hell is he looking at tape, and does he really understand the value of what a safety like Adrian Amos brings to the table? And I got to say, man, you need some pussy.
Dude, we can just turn on. We can turn on that Browns game. We talked about it before when Isaiah Crowell, they tried to dump it off to Crowell, and he seen Amos coming flying towards him. This dude looked at him, and he literally just dropped the ball because he knew what was about to happen. Mm-hmm. He was like, I don't want no parts of that shit at all.
How true is that?
Fuck that, dude. Oh, I would have dropped the shit too.
Well, one of the other people who have caught our attention here at the Barroom is, and we've talked about him, I think, in the last couple of shows, is David Kaplan. And
that was Trey with steak and whiskey the last time we spoke to him.
Was that right? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yep. That's right. Well, it happens to be my mom's steak and whiskey too. Let me see if I can find this thing here first.
Hold that up.
Where the hell did mommy go?
Steak and whiskey.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Listen to Aldo dropping the polysyllables.
Yo. A new drop, Scott?
It's a new drop,
right,
man.
I haven't heard that
I can see Aldo on top and Shane on the bottom.
Hello.
Y'all got hoop earrings in y'all right ear too.
What does Aldo's mama say?
David Kaplan, you are smart and you like the Cubs and I like the Cubs. But when you talk about the Bears, keep your fucking mouth shut.
That is what Aldo's mama said. That is indeed my mom, and she's going to make a weekly appearance here at 100 Proof and sharing her wisdom about the Chicago sports scene. So that was her first official offering on 100 Proof.
And after that, Aldo, I told her that I told her that I loved her, and what was her response?
She said she wants a party in your pants.
Yeah.
And I'm not at all bullshitting. This 78-year-old woman can still rock it.
She's ready, huh?
Yeah, she's ready. I showed her a picture of Shady. Oh, qué bonito eres. Está casado, which means he's good looking. Is he married? and I'm like, what the fuck do you care if he's married or not? You just want to have a party in his pants.
Hey, shut up and listen to your daddy.
Oh, man. And so if you guys have any ideas there on, and I'm sure Trey has probably a million ideas on who my mom can comment on next, please let me know. Shoot us a tweet at Bears Barroom or any of our social media platforms and just let us know, and we'll get Mom in front of a microphone and she will share her thoughts.
Love it.
All right. We also have a new feature that's being prominently played on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You will not be disappointed. Lots of great videos there. And it also at bearsbarroom.com. And that is Draft Dr. Phil's Desirables. Phil is producing videos on draft prospects that he likes. And in fact, today he posted one of a prospect that Shane likes, and that player is Tremaine Edmonds. And I want to talk about Tremaine Edmonds because I think there's a few people on social media who weren't particularly as enamored with Edmonds as Shane and Phil, and I want to get Trey's opinion on Edmonds. And so, what do you guys think about Trey Edmonds and the naysayers about Trey Edmonds? Shane, let me begin with you.
Well, one of the little Twitter feuds that I got in tonight, strangely enough, had to do about Tremaine Edmonds. Nick Brown at Nicola Sickles tweeted me and said, well, if Mr. Edmonds plans on playing inside linebacker, he's going to need to put on weight. But at 19 years old, that shouldn't be hard. Well, he's 6'5", 250, and I tweeted it back. I said
65.
I said, well, currently Trevathan's 239, Kwiatkowski's 242, and Jarrell Freeman was 236, and they were all playing inside linebacker. So I think AJ got pissed off because he said he's not. You draft a guy that's 19, going to turn 20 a few days after the draft. You're going to have to wait 2 or 3 years for this guy to make an impact, and I'm not buying that at all. It's not like, it's not a quarterback that we're talking about. It's an inside linebacker. At the end of the day, yes, he's going to have some reads that he has to make, and I don't think he's going to come in day one and he's going to be calling the defense. He still is raw. He has every attribute that you ever could dream of in a football player that you could really potentially build your defense around. Like I said, 6'5", 250. Can run like Urlacher, probably may even be faster. He's not as big as Brian Urlacher, but this guy's like a gazelle out there. I mean, his sideline to sideline speed. It's Phil. We talked about it on the video. It takes you 10 seconds to see this kid pop on tape. And I know Mike Brez and I went back a little bit, and he said that he would be a third round
window.
Yeah, he'd be a third round draft pick if you were projecting him outside, but that's neither here nor there. He's a versatile.
Projecting him outside, he's a third round pick. That's what he said.
That's what he said tonight. Yeah, but
he said.
Yes, that's what he tweeted. That's what he tweeted.
Okay.
How?
Okay.
It's what his Mike's reasoning was. If you're drafting him at number 8 and he plays up to the potential that you're drafting him at number 8.
Was Leonard Floyd an inside backer, Shane?
He played all over the place at Georgia.
Was he an inside backer?
No,
like
20% everywhere, man.
20% of the snaps, I think, were at inside linebacker.
And how many snaps? 20% outside linebacker
for Edmonds.
You're seeing
right.
Edmonds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm not saying right now if I was sitting down and you're asking me who's a better inside linebacker right now, Roquan Smith or Tremaine Edmonds, Smith is. He's the better inside linebacker right now. But to me, Edmonds' upside is ridiculous. Ridiculous. And right now, who knows what Danny Trevathan's going to be? Is he going to be around? Is he assured to be here in 2019? I love Nick Kwiatkowski. He still needs to prove. This guy is a franchise-type talent at inside linebacker that you can do everything with. You can put your NASCAR package out. Just imagine him and Leonard Floyd out there with the way that these guys are built. If both of them are playing up to, oh my God, playing up to their potential.
Man.
It's speed. Yeah, it's all about
instincts.
And
if I was comparing Floyd and him, Shane,
yeah,
this kid's more polished than Floyd was as a football player.
I agree.
It's
overall.
Not even fucking close.
And he's
as a coach,
19 years old. I can't get
19 years old. He's still growing genetically.
That's the craziest part about it, though. That's the craziest. He's 19.
Yeah,
19. When you're grading a negative, Shane pointed out Amos is 23 and has 3 years in the league already, and Eddie Jackson's 24, has 1 year. It matters.
Yeah, and
ask any football coach though. One other point, because this is I just want to hammer this home. Uncoachable traits are uncoachable. So coaches can That's what they want because that's clay molded. Now you actually add the fact that he's 19 and he's coming into the NFL. Guess who he's listening to?
Yeah.
His fucking coaches. So now he's going to be. This isn't a guy that's you're concerned about as a player. He can do it all. Now he's got to get coached up. Who better than the outside linebackers coach? You got Vic Fangio.
And
So,
what does Vic love, Phil? He loves versatile
length,
players and
versatility.
length. Right, exactly. This kid, am I going to be upset if he's the pick at number 8? No.
Hell no.
Not at all.
Hell
I
no.
think people don't understand if you have natural traits but you're instinctive, now you fucking. I mean, the kid Roquan Smith, Shane, is tremendous. Draft nicks out there listening. I fucking love that kid.
Yeah.
But I'm assessing molding a talent, and I'm assessing his surrounding talent. And when I look at Georgia has some fucking animals on their defense.
Man.
Even the other outside linebacker. I love that kid.
Lorenzo
Georgia.
Carter.
Thank you, Carter. That kid's a football player. The
Yeah.
defensive line. This kid's got Settle, who Greg Gabriel put me onto him. He hit it out. This kid Settle from Virginia Tech is fun to fucking watch. He is an animal at 330. I mean, take a look at his tape if you haven't seen it. I'm going to put him in my tape diaries here, the desirables, because he's impressive. But needless to say, to Shane's point, this kid coming into an NFL team with this kind of surrounding talent, and he's more talented than a Kwiatkowski. He's more talented than a Danny Trevathan. I'm not saying he's polished, but you couldn't get me to sign a fucking $10 bill over to Shane. He's like, Phil, we got to take an inside backer. Shane tells me to watch this tape, true backstory. You got to see this kid. I fucking called him back, 20 minutes later? I'm like, dude, this is fucking black lacquer. This kid jumps off the fucking tape.
True story. That's exactly what.
Black lacquer.
That's exactly what. Those were his words exactly. I think that was like the first thing he said. He's like, dude, black lacquer. And I'm like, oh, you watched Edmonds, huh?
Yeah. You can't coach those things, guys. So when this kid, and no offense to him, just like we're and Trey missed that about Matt Baum, and I totally agree with that. But we just go by our opinions, and to me, this kid makes play after play just like an Adrian Amos. Now, he doesn't have the interceptions, Aldo. I don't think he has one interception at 6'5", 250, playing inside with that kind of length. You'd expect that. Downgrade him for that. I get it. But watch him close. Watch him cover. They're not throwing his way because he's so lengthy. And those stat scouts are going to be biased. For me, just like Shane said, I'm going to keep it real with you. That's exactly what I said to him. When NFL draft, what is that? Draft
breakdown.
Draft breakdown, pulled up 2 of his games. Granted, I'm doing more work on him. But the fact of the matter, my first reaction in watching his full game is that this is a fucking chess piece on the board. And there's no doubt in my mind as a football guy that he could play outside linebacker in the NFL. I'm not even concerned about that.
Hey, one other hot take that Nick Brown had, the guy that tweeted me saying that he needs to put on weight, was one of his major concerns was his size to explosive hit ratio seems off.
He only has limited highlight hits.
A limited number of highlight hits, whatever the fuck that means.
Who gives a damn if they're hard hits? As long as you get the guys down, who gives a fuck?
Let me tell you, he's in an open field tackle versus that pick quarterback. 90% of linebackers coming inside out like that are going to over pursue or get juked. He just fucking bully stands him up in the open field like it's nothing. It's like Harkish not giving Amos credit for those alley plays. It's disgusting.
Louis Riddick was. I'm sorry, Trey. I was just gonna say Louis Riddick was on ESPN 1000 talking about how offenses now want to win the battle inside the numbers. And as soon as he said that, I thought to myself, the Bears need to get Tremaine Edmonds, because can you imagine him patrolling that area? I mean, he's gonna be defense.
So good point, Aldo. Great fucking point.
I was gonna say, I don't see how you can see he's undersized, because as soon as you turn on the tape, you be like, who's this big ass motherfucker out there playing linebacker?
I hear you.
No, he gets to point A to B.
He's huge.
Like he's 6'1", 220, Aldo. He looks like a safety.
Yeah.
He's flying to the football. He stacks sheds. He's not afraid to put his arms extend with that kind of length. Aldo's 100%. The game is, look at the New England Patriots. No name receivers. Attack in the middle with the big fucking tight end coming down the seam. What did the Bears draft? A big fucking tight end. They get Matt Nagy over here. What do you think they're going to be attacking? You saw all the success. Where are they throwing? Option read, throwing the in cut, the slant to right. This happened. This is what they're going to be doing. Defenses have to cater to the times. Length, athlete. This kid moves, Aldo.
Speed kills.
This isn't Lurch.
Kills.
Exactly. This isn't some big goofy. This isn't, what's his name? 6'5" Bryant Cox. Playing the middle is a bigger guy who couldn't really move well, but was an aggressive, great football player. This is Brian Urlacher-esque. I'm sorry. Comps are comps. You might not agree, but to me, it's that unnatural.
What I was going to say, one thing about him that I noticed, first of all, when I first turned on the tape, that's why I was like, I tweeted out, I was like, I was looking at who would be available for 8, and I decided to look at linebackers. I was like, holy fucking shit, this kid Edmonds. He like literally makes a decision and go. As soon as the fucking ball snapped, he just like, he goes. If he's going after the running back, there's nobody stopping him from getting to the running back. Like literally, he sheds blocks like it's insane. Like I don't understand how anybody can look at him for fucking 30 seconds and say he's undersized. I don't. No. I really don't understand that. Like, what do you want to be? 300 pounds? He's a fucking linebacker, dude. Like, come on.
The kid has hype right now. Just wait until he goes to the combine.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
watch what happens.
Him and Davenport are going to shoot up the fucking draft.
Who's going to flip flop?
Watch how quick him and Davenport are going to shoot up the damn draft thing. Watch, the stock going to fucking skyrocket.
Well, and Marcus Davenport is one of Draft Dr. Phil's desirables, and I wanted to ask Trey, who would he like to see Draft Dr. Phil tackle in the next week or so with his draft desirables movies?
He did number 1 today, man. I want to see that. I want to see Phil break him down. But I'm gonna have to go with I'm gonna have to go with the dark horse, man. Nobody wants him at 8, but the guy is just a beast. I'm gonna have to go with Quentin Nelson.
Yeah. The challenge! You and Hoge challenging me now.
Yeah. Hey, Phil, that dude. I've been watching Notre Dame. That's my team. I've seen him literally just like manhandle motherfuckers. Like even if he doesn't get the right hand position on him, he's so strong. He still pushes people back. Yeah. They can have leverage. He still is strong enough to get leverage back from them, just to fucking push them. Like it's crazy watching this dude play. It's insane. Like thinking
accepted.
Thinking about the interior of him, Cody Whitehair, and a healthy Kyle Long. Oh my fuck, Mr. Trubisky be able to smoke a cigarette before he throws a fucking football.
There's Jordan Howard, Nani Lee.
Jordan Howard wouldn't even be touched by anybody.
Can't catch.
He wouldn't get touched.
I don't even know why he's in the NFL.
Hey, Jordan Howard wouldn't get touched for the first 5 yards. He wouldn't have to worry about picking up the yards after contact. Wouldn't be no contact. Motherfucker's gonna be on the ground.
Oh
Jordan
man,
Howard.
Trey wants to move on from Tom Compton and Bradley Sowell.
Coronis Pursue.
Quentin Nelson is a special football player. In fact,
it's insane.
I think he might be the very best player coming into this draft, the guy who is the closest to a can't-miss player.
Aldo's getting excited.
Yeah, he excites me.
He's the truth, man.
He excites me.
So Aldo,
it's a plug-and-play player.
Trey, I did Shane, Tremaine Edmonds.
Mm-hmm.
I did your boy. I'm going to do Quentin Nelson for Trey.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you want me to do for you, Aldo? Who are you going to talk? I'm going to get Trey to give me some insight. I'm going to put him in the video because he's a Bears Barroom barfly general.
Mm-hmm.
Who about you, Aldo? Who do you want me to put the 2 minutes of Draft Dr. Phil's time?
He wants you to trade it to the Jets for Jamal Adams.
I'll give you a couple of names, but I'll just give you one name.
No, just give me the one that you want.
And it's not because I'm totally convinced on this player, but it's because I want to learn more about him. And it's Denzel Ward, the cornerback from Ohio State. A lot of people have projected him. Yeah, a lot of people have projected him to the Bears, and I personally like the guy you already did, Josh Jackson, over Ward. But convince me that Ward should even be a top 10 player.
Challenge accepted.
All right, nice. This is fun.
I got 2 challenges. I'm gonna go into. I'm gonna have. Well, for Trey, I'm gonna get you because Shane, were you surprised? I know barflies are surprised because that kind of shocked me how much love Aldo showed for Quentin Nelson. Yeah. So I'm gonna put you and I'll give Trey a little homework too to give me your. Not Shane's 2 minutes and 22 seconds.
Hey, I'll help Phil with his breakdown of Denzel Ward right now. If the Bears draft him at number 8, I'm gonna be fucking pissed.
Really? Interesting. Okay, that's interesting. So Trey, give us, do a little homework and then give us like 30 seconds on Quentin Nelson. And just give me a call. Put
you in the film.
Yeah, give me a call and I'll record your rant on him, whether it's positive or negative. I'm assuming it's positive. Oh, with Quentin Nelson,
obviously positive.
Definitely
it's his guy.
That's right.
Same with you. Come on.
If you want, I could have did this shit right now, but you can. Right? Because I'm gonna say, because I've been watching them, because I watch. Notre Dame is my team. That's my college team.
Just take your time. Put the clock on yourself.
Yeah, and
give me 30 to 40 seconds.
You got the little voice recorder on your iPhone. That's how I do it with Phil.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And I text him the audio that way.
It works.
That's all you got to do. Unfortunately, Trey didn't get to hear the new cult classic of Bears Barroom, so he's gonna have to listen to the whole show tomorrow. But a little backstory today. I almost threw my phone against the wall because Shane, the gentleman that the barflies that joined in were sending me their audio through voice, recorder and sending it to me. And I'm trying to drop it into the application and it won't let me do it. And I over and over, I start losing my mind because you see what came. I saw it. I'm like, this is gonna be fucking awesome. And I couldn't get it to work, Aldo. I'm fucking losing. Nikki keeps sending me fucking MPEGs. I'm like, what the fuck is an MPEG doing? Audio, MP3. Send me an MP3. I'm losing my mind. I swear, I was losing. I walk out of my office. I come back in from a bathroom break. And I say, I'm gonna solve this. And finally, with the help, shout out to Sandy Tom across the pond helping me get these players, and Bobby Phelan also resolved it by sending it as an MP3 and naming it. It was able to trick the application, drop it in, and the rest is Bears Barroom history now. But this will work for the video. Just send me the voicemail. I had to tell that backstory because it was fun.
All right, it's that time of the show. We've
that was our shout out section. Good night, everybody.
Shane, a lot of barflies are DMing me, and as the music plays, I'm going to take you to the top because some of them are really hurt because they feel like they are pushing for you to get followers. They're pushing for you to get, noticed and recognized. They want to stand up for you against Mike.
They'll be happy. I got a little breaking news for them. It says right here. Wah! I don't care.
You give one selected barfly a shout out.
Give a family member a shout out.
Oh, let me see.
Give
Riley a shout out. Hey, son.
We give out these Wasram awards. I mean,
no, we haven't yet. We haven't given them out yet. I'll give a shout out to Chris Armstrong, recovering from her surgery. Chris, we hope you feel better.
Chris, it's been 6 weeks.
She's taken on that ceiling fan 2 times now and lost both times. So we hope she's feeling better.
Chris, we love you. We miss you. Hope you get better really, really quick. I apologize I haven't reached out. All right, Phil. Well, let me go to
Trey?
Alec first, because we know that Phil's shout out list can be as long as one of my shits. so Alec, I know you got some shout outs ready for us. Why don't you take it away?
All right, man. I'm gonna go ahead and shout out some of the Barroom. Not too many of them, because I know Phil gonna get everybody else. I'm start with a couple of them. I'm gonna give a shout out to Chris again, because like you said, that shit's crazy. The ceiling fan falling over, man. And when you're a little kid, man. You're a little kid.
How many ceiling fans?
And listen, when you're a little kid, you see the one in your auntie house, and it just be shaking, and you can see the wires in that motherfucker.
Yeah.
He's like, man, that shit's gonna fall one day. And I never thought it actually falls.
Yeah, that little chain hanging from it slapping the fucking glass.
You never think the shit's gonna fall.
Yeah.
Dude, that wasn't my auntie's house. That was my house, man.
Aldo was stuck in that thing, bro.
Oh, man, that thing was wild.
Turn that fucker down. You can put on high. It's over with. I hope Chris gets better though, man. For real. Shout out to Diddy, man. A lot of these guys, man, they like to I like how they like to challenge like the guys on Twitter that just think they're the best analysts ever, but they don't ever really stay by what they say. We talk about it all the time, and they pointed out it's so funny when they challenge the guys, because they say some stupid shit and be like, don't be surprised if motherfucker, what the fuck is that supposed to be mean? Don't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised
if the sun comes out tomorrow.
Right. I wouldn't be shocked if the sun goes down. Okay. Fuck you, man. Fuck those guys. But, shout out to the Varflies, man. Like I said, shout out to Diddy, Air Jer. They like to point out Bob Phelan, man, coming through with the stickers.
Bobby.
Coming through with the stickers, man.
The big time Bob.
I'm just gonna go ahead, Phil. Get the rest of them.
You know what? I went to war. I waged a war. I had the backing of the Godfather. I had the backing of most educated Bears fans, and that includes the smartest man in the room. And I took to the tape, because the tape doesn't lie. And I challenged Mr. Kaplan, because whatever definition of elite running back he has is misguided, and it's unfortunate because a lot of sheep follow that kind of path with somebody like that. And I said it and I'll say it again, talented as he is as a broadcaster and drumming up and what Shane went into, you have a responsibility, especially in this time where shootings and drama and children getting bullied and taking lives. And I don't mean to get serious, but in this case, I know the war with which that Jordan Howard faced, the uphill battle. And I think we owe it to him as analysts, not to blow smoke up anybody's ass, but to praise the effort and the energy and the charisma that they bring to your Sundays that you miss so much. And without him, there is no win. And I said, I'm going to do this. And the backing was, and these people went out of their way to praise the movie when it came out. And that includes Trey, Bizzy. So a shout out to you, Trey, as you're standing here, the first time ever.
Awesome.
But I want to shout out Richard Neutzel, Benny Driscola, Ross Reed, Bobby Phelan, Sandy Tom, Aaron Current, Lanny Crudup, B. Diddy, Jay Mueller, Tyler Woods, Lou Corona, J.C. Payton, John Bradley across the pond. I love him. Nelson Daniels. I mean, my little protege there. The kid brings it too. Danny Walker, Heidi Zimmerman, Hurricane Harry. Always bringing it. Fake Arietta. Miss Tommy Missile, Mario Villarreal, hey. And Badge, and one other kid who listens in all the time. He DM'd me, hey, I just love you guys and what you're doing. That's Chris Bears 3420 at Chris Bears at Chris _ Bears 3420. You guys really supported the movie, Jordan Howard, and the cause. So I just wanted to take the time out to tell you, you put your heart and soul into these things, and it means something to you. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it meant a lot to the Barroom and the Barflies, it means a lot to me. And Nikki Kurtz too. Nikki, obviously, the Bulldog. So I just wanted to say thank you all, and I got Adrian Amos coming on the deck.
Yeah, baby.
Trey, we're gonna bring that one to Marcus's door and Arthur. Hello.
Well, it's about damn time.
No shit. Everybody's here. It's Arthur. Hodge told me this. I should pick up.
I love it. I love it. Listen, everyone. Remember, if you drink, please don't drive, and always bear down.
Bear down.
Bear down.
Bear down.
Come on, Shane, you can do better than that.
No, I can't. I've been neutered.
In the window. Oh my God.
Great job, fellas.
That was a great show.
That was one of the best, I think.
Yeah, honestly,
I gotta say.
I really think it is too, to me.
I think everything I did tonight was perfect.
I honestly have no complaints about you tonight, Shane.
Did we lose Alec? Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Whoa, there he is. Alec bringing it tonight.
Big time.
Yes.
He brought back 2 points that we made. That's how on point you are.
Yeah, it was perfect. Perfect.
Man. Fucking phenomenal. I thought the Hoge stuff was great. I thought the bear up, bear down stuff spontaneously, just the way you two like it, was great. I thought Trey Bizzy was like tonight.
Okay, amigos.
All right, guys.
Later, fellas.
Sleep
All right, talk to you guys. Talk to you guys in like 7 hours.
Yeah.
more like 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Sleep it off.
Shane will be 2. I'm going to bed.
All right, later, guys.
All right, guys.
Now I hope this shit goes viral. I want everybody to hear what I said.